right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out here to join us tonight. My name is Hallie Frazee. I'm the Wildfire Communications Manager here at Pacific Power. Before we get started this evening, we do have Oregon Public Utility Commissioner Letha Tawney, who's going to do some brief opening remarks.
All right. Thanks so much. Welcome, everyone. It's so lovely to see so many folks. I hope Pacific Corps' dinner was delicious. So I'm Commissioner Letha Tawney, and I'm based in Portland. Our offices are in Salem, but my in-laws are in Grants Pass. My husband, so we're down here a lot. The grandkids need to come down. See the grandparents, and my husband spent a lot of his youth in Roseburg, so we have a lot of roots in the area. We don't get down as much as we should, I'm sure, but we love it every time we do get a chance to come down and spend time in this absolutely beautiful landscape. And so it's lovely to see everyone out tonight on a weeknight. Thanks for taking the time. So the Oregon Public Utility Commission is a state agency. I'm one of 3 commissioners, and together the 3 of us are responsible for holding the utilities accountable. So it's our job to regulate the prices that they charge, the reliability that they provide, and their safety. And on wildfire in particular, it's our job to review the wildfire mitigation plans that they file, to audit their infrastructure. So we have a safety team that goes out and audits. Right now, at this point, we see all of the high fire risk designated lines every year, and to ensure that the way they're spending their money, the money they've collected from ratepayers, is as efficient as absolutely possible. And so they're reducing risk as efficiently as possible and getting the best bang for the buck. That's a challenge in such a rapidly changing space. Right? We see across the West how devastating any ignition can be, not just here in California, in Colorado, in Hawaii, across the board. We're seeing just what a drying climate and a really a whole set of decisions we've made over the last century have created in terms of a challenge before us, before our communities, and in particular before our utilities. And so one of our rules that we've written into the code is that the utilities have to work very hard to engage their communities. They need to provide their resources in the languages that their communities need. So I'm really pleased to see that happening here tonight. And we're here, Melissa and I, to listen and to hear the questions you ask, to see how they're presenting their information, and to hear your concerns as you bring them up to the company, or if you want to approach Melissa and I afterwards. So thanks for taking the time to come out, and I'll hand the evening over to the hosts.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. As we get started, I wanted to kind of introduce you a little bit to our team. We have, as I said, my name's Hallie. I'm the Wildfire Communications Program Manager, so I'll be presenting tonight along with Melissa Swenson. She's our Director of Wildfire Mitigation, and also Nora Yatsov, who's our Director of Emergency Management. If you've seen around the room, there are several of our other team members, our local Pacific Power representatives, as well as some of our leadership. So just wanted to introduce some of them. So your Regional Business Manager here in Medford is Cooper. Oh, there he is. He's way back there. Thank you, Cooper. We actually have 2 of our vegetation management team here, Alex and Lorelei. Thank you. We have our operations director, Mike. There he is. And our substation director, Tim. Where'd he go? He stepped out for just a minute, but he'll be back, don't worry. Our emergency manager for this region is Holly. We also have 2 of our new fire and emergency response managers, Daryl and Lloyd. There you go. And then in terms of our leadership, we have our VP of Customer and Community Solutions, Corey. Our VP of Operations, Tom. Thank you. Our Senior VP of Power Delivery, Kurt. Thank you. And then Pacific Power President, Ryan. Thank you, sir. So we bring all of these folks here, one, so you can meet the local team and also get a chance to engage with some of our leaders, but to be sure that we can answer as many of your questions or concerns as possible. And if we don't have the right people in the room, we will be sure to track down those answers for you. I'm also really excited. We have a couple of our local public safety partners here. You may have saw them when you came in. They have some tables out there. They have some great information to hand out. So we have Jackson County Emergency Management here. They're your local county emergency management group. Holly interfaces with them a lot, kind of throughout the year. And then we also have the Oregon Department of Human Services, the Office of Resilience and Emergency Management. So both of these agencies work to help make sure that your community is prepared and ready for all types of disasters, not just wildfire. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about kind of the local service area, kind of a high level of what we do, and then we'll get into kind of the core functions of what we do for wildfire prevention and mitigation here in Oregon. That includes our situational awareness, our system resiliency, and how we operate the system. We're also going to touch on some of the improvements that we've made since last season. We know there were a lot of outages here during wildfire season, and so we want to make sure that we kind of cover what we're doing differently and what we've learned since last year, so that you can feel more prepared going into this wildfire season. And then we'll also be talking about some things that you can do at home or at your business, or just to be prepared to go into wildfire season. And then, of course, we will have a question and answer period. So we'll have someone bring around the mic. We'll get to as many questions as we can. And then a lot of our team will be sticking around after the event. So we're happy to talk with you one-on-one if you have very specific concerns, or if your question didn't get answered, or if you have any follow-up. So we'll be doing that. I will say we are short one team member tonight. Typically, we also have one of our senior meteorologists with us. Unfortunately, he's home with 2 sick kiddos and a sick wife, so he's taking care of them tonight. So I'm not nearly as charming as Chester is, but I will be filling in for him to talk about our meteorology team as well. So, kind of as we get started, we wanted to hit on what makes up kind of our wildfire mitigation approach. So Commissioner Tawney mentioned that we file a wildfire mitigation plan in every state, including Oregon. And so these are the different components of what we do that constitute, wildfire mitigation. These are kind of the large buckets of our activities that we'll talk to you guys about tonight. So situational awareness is kind of just like it sounds. It's us being aware of what's happening. This is our short-term risk modeling, our forecasting capabilities, our long-term risk analysis. And so I'll be talking about a little bit more of that. Our operational practices, this is how we operate the system safely and possibly differently during wildfire season to make sure that we're keeping our customers and communities safe. And so Melissa will be touching on some of those. Probably one of the more visible things that you see in the community is what we call system strengthening or resilience. So this is where we're putting up new equipment, assessing current equipment, maybe doing vegetation management, things like that. And so we'll talk a little bit about what's happening here in the Medford area and kind of the improvements we're making. And then underlying all of that is our engagement strategy. So that's why we're out here tonight. We are getting out to as many communities as we can before wildfire season starts. This is actually our 8th event here in Oregon this season already, and so we have a couple more this week as well. But this is our opportunity to engage with our customers, our communities, our local public safety partners. We also have our regulators here and other members of the local community and industry as well. And so as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about the service area here. We do have a map outside if you guys want to take a look as well to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here. But in Medford, we have almost 450 miles of distribution lines. These are the lines that come down to your home that provide the electricity. We have 176 miles of transmission lines. So these are the larger lines that bring the electricity from where we're generating down to those distribution lines. And then we have about 17 substations in the area. On the map, you can see mostly blue. That is our service area, but then you also see some areas of purple. And those are kind of why we're out here tonight. Those areas of purple, which we do have a lot in Southern Oregon, are what we call our fire high consequence area. So these are areas that we've identified that have a higher fire risk and have a potential for more catastrophic consequences should we actually have a fire here. That's based on a variety of factors, but we know that here in Medford, and I'm sure you guys are well aware that wildfire is more common in some areas, and so depending on where you live, you may or may not be in that designated fire high consequence area. But we operate the system, knowing that there is this fire high consequence area near Medford. We operate the system such that, we're taking the whole community into account because the system is interconnected. So we're making sure that we're making good decisions with our forecasting, how we operate the system, and what we're doing to prepare the system and make it stronger and more resistant to wildfire. So the first thing we want to kind of hit on is our situational awareness capabilities. And so this is, again, where Chester would normally step in. He's an amazing meteorologist, but did spend some time prepping with him before this. So as I mentioned, situational awareness is just like what it sounds like. It's being aware of what's happening today, what's happening in the near future, but also taking into account the data and reliability information that we have from the last 30 years to make better decisions on a day-to-day basis. So what we have at PacifiCorp, we're one of the first utilities in the West to have our own in-house team of meteorologists. So these are meteorologists who come from a variety of backgrounds, some of them from the National Weather Service, TV news, other backgrounds who have an expertise in meteorology that work directly for Pacific Power and our sister company, Rocky Mountain Power. So every day there are a team of meteorologists that are making weather forecasts for every area that we operate in. So for every service area that we have, we are doing a detailed forecast for that service area 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So every day in the morning, a forecast gets sent out that lets us know what we can expect in terms of dangerous weather conditions that might impact our operations. We also get a fire forecast to let us know, okay, here's where the risk level is in this area. And so they're looking at a variety of factors throughout the year to kind of determine what is going to cause that risk to increase. And so with that forecast, we can decide how we're going to safely operate that system. So when the risk levels change, we may decide, okay, now is the time that we need to change the settings on our system. Now is the time when maybe we need to look at doing additional work on the system to make sure that we're ready for wildfire season. In the winter, our meteorologists, they don't just work wildfire, they are working on, we're looking at wind, we're looking at ice storms, we're getting ready for those types of winter weather scenarios. But from spring all the way through early fall, we are laser focused on fire. That is our number one priority. Every day we're looking at the models that we have in-house. You can kind of see on the screen, we have a tool called Wildfire Analyst. This allows us to map different parts of our service area and see what the level of risk is there. It takes a variety of factors into account. So wind speed, how much it's rained recently or not rained recently, what other kinds of fuels we're looking at. So this is, the things that are still alive plants, trees, bushes, that kind of thing, and also the dead fuels. So the things that have fallen to the ground that are drying out that may be more susceptible to catching on fire. So we're looking at a variety of factors all at once, and we kind of put it into this model, and we're able to make this forecast that tells us what the risk is. Again, it's a team of people. We work together to kind of put this forecast together. You can also see on the other side of the screen what we call our WRF model. This is our kind of daily forecasting. It allows us to look across the service area, both today, 5 days out, and a little bit further than that now as well. But the idea here is that we're doing that forecast on a regular basis. So if we were to find conditions, we're getting into that really high potential for the most dry or the most windy, other conditions that would have us concerned for wildfire, we're already looking at that several days out. And Nora's going to talk a little bit more about what kinds of things we might do when we encounter those scenarios. And so, we talk about the weather a lot. As you can see on the map, we have about 178 weather stations currently in the state of Oregon. We have another 12 coming online this year. By the end of the year. Here in the Medford area, we have 36 weather stations, and these are all weather stations that we own and operate. So they're on our power poles, they're near critical infrastructure. And the great thing about all of these, and we'll show you in just a minute, is we make these publicly available, not only to our customers, but to our public safety partners, to other weather forecasting entities, so that we can all share this information and provide the best weather forecast possible for the communities that we serve. As I mentioned, we have a website. It's called pacificpowerweather.com. If you go on here, you can actually see the live feed from our weather stations in your area. It's really easy to use. You can actually see some historic data. You can see kind of what it's been like in your area. You can see this is the highest the winds have gone. But really, our goal is to empower our customers and communities to be informed about what's going on. We make a forecast, we put that out, but this is available to you 24/7, available to our public safety partners, our other weather entities as well. But we're also pulling in data from groups like the National Weather Service or NOAA and other entities like that. So we all work together and we're able to put all this data together to make these advanced forecasts. And so this is kind of how we do, our short-term modeling for wildfire and for weather. But we also have another component of our situational awareness, which is our risk forecast. So we have in-house, we've spent a lot of time inputting data to build these customized computer models that basically allow us to see what the weather is going to look like based on historical data. So we've taken 30 years back across our service area, looked at the conditions, looked at where we've had fires before, where we've had really dry conditions, and we've put them into these models and we run simulations all the time to see what would happen if we were to have a fire here today in these conditions, or what would happen if we had a fire here in 5 days from these conditions or further out. So we're putting all of this information in, and this includes taking in information from the National Fire Data Rating System. We're looking at weather, we're looking at wind speed, we're looking at those fuel moistures, energy release components, relative humidity. So we're putting all of that into these really great advanced computer models that we've invested in so that we can provide that accurate forecast. And so that we can make better decisions if we do have a wildfire or if we are in wildfire conditions on how we're going to respond and how we're going to do that safely. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to talk to you guys a little bit more about how we're improving the resiliency of our system.
Thanks, Hallie. As she said, my name is Melissa Swenson. I'm the Director of Wildfire Mitigation Delivery at Pacific Power, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. I was driving down today, and first of all, I was cheering for the rain that was coming through because I'm like, yes, rain, because I've seen what the fire forecast is for the season, and I'm like, more rain, keep bringing it. Also, over the last about 6 weeks, we've been doing these forums from everywhere from Pilot Rock, which is the town south of Pendleton, to the coast, to down here. And as an Oregonian who's lived here my whole life, I'm like, we are so lucky to live in such a beautiful state. So I'm very happy to be here talking about what we're doing to help build a resilient system. So when we talk about system resiliency, what we're really talking about is making it more resilient to hazards. And as you came in, you may have seen some of our displays out there and some of the equipment that we have on there that we use to help build a more resilient system. So if you just sort of passed it by, please make sure to stop and take a look when you leave tonight. But some of these things that we can do are installing things that we call cover conductor, or using aerial spacers or fire-resistant poles. And cover conductor is one of the things on those displays. And you can think of it very much as when you're driving down the road, a lot of times when you see poles and wires, it is bare wire. And what cover conductor does is put a layer of insulation around it. So when the wind blows or something hits the wire, if it's bare wire, it could cause a spark, which could cause an ignition. We don't want that to happen. And two, it can also cause an outage. So if we put a layer of insulation on it, that cover conductor, we make it more resistant to things like branches tapping on lines or balloons hitting lines to reduce the risk of a spark and an outage. And I think of it very much, because I'm not an engineer, like the appliances at our houses, where you don't just have bare wire from your toaster to the outlet in the wall. You have a layer of insulation on it to make sure that you don't get a spark, you don't touch it, you don't have that risk of an ignition in your house. Like I said, not an engineer. I work in appliance metaphors a lot. So another thing we also do as we're doing these work on this system resiliency is we're replacing our wooden poles with more resilient materials like steel and fiberglass, because those are more resilient to fire. We're also doing things like putting in aerial spacers, which we don't have an example of out there, but you can see it on the screen there. And those are spacers that hold the wires apart. So a lot of times when the wind starts to blow, if it's blowing hard enough, the wires can start to slap against each other. We don't want that to happen because slap, it's a contact, could cause a spark. So what these spacers do is hold those wires apart, so if the wind blows, they move together. We're also doing things around what we call system automation. And what this is installing relays and reclosers and what we call communicating fault current indicators, which is a mouthful, and we call them CFCIs. And what these do is work in tandem. So those relays and reclosers are can be set to be more sensitive. So in times when we have that wildfire risk, when the meteorology team is going, hey, we're seeing some conditions could create some fire risk, we can set those to be more sensitive. So if there's a tap on the line, they can shut off in fractions of a second, which again reduces the risk of an ignition or a spark. But then we also know that can cause an outage. So those fault indicators are communicating back and telling our operations center, hey, there's an outage out here. Here's the location of where it is. So we can send our crews out to go take a look, find out what's going on, and start the restoration effort more quickly for you. And just to give you an idea, we pulled a list of what those system strengthening projects are on the circuits around Medford and a little bit over into the Grants Pass area and down south. So we're doing a lot of work in the area around that system automation this year in your area to install those relays, reclosers, and communicating fault current indicators, just to make sure that we can make sure the system's more sensitive in those conditions so that we can reduce the risk of a spark, and also make sure that we're restoring more quickly if there is an outage that happens from those. Another thing we do on a regular basis is vegetation management, and this can look like a lot of things. So this can be ground inspections or air surveillance. And things we're looking for are things like limbs and lines, vegetation under equipment, and hazardous trees. Trees that may be dead or diseased or look a little sketchy. And so in areas of heightened fire risk, we are doing that vegetation management work more frequently, and we are looking at making sure that that vegetation is trimmed back further and making sure we're taking care of limbs and lines. So those areas in purple on that map we saw at the beginning, we're doing that vegetation management more frequently in those areas. We're also doing things around pole clearing, which makes sure that we are clearing the vegetation that's around poles so that if there is a spark that falls to the ground, we've cleared the vegetation in the area to make sure we reduce the risk of an ignition. And if we are out inspecting and we find that there are trees that are diseased or at risk, we'll make sure to remove those as well. And I was checking some stats before I came in here. We're about halfway through our vegetation work for the year. And also, we're almost halfway on our pole clearing. So I was getting some stats for you all. So that's statewide, so it's not specific to Medford, but wanted to give you an idea of how we are on progress there. And we're also on the lookout for making sure that we're addressing potential problems with our equipment, with our poles and our lines and our substations. And we do this more frequently in our fire high consequence areas, those areas in purple, and making sure that we're doing more frequent inspections and fixing issues that could cause an ignition first, that are what we call a energy potential issue. So last year we inspected over 116,000 transmission and distribution pieces of equipment. So we are out there doing a lot of inspections. And then this year, we are also doing what we call safety patrol inspections across our entire service area, regardless if you're in a fire high consequence area or not. We are out doing a safety patrol on all our overhead equipment just to make sure that we can identify any issues and get them addressed. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our operational practices that we have to make sure that we're operating the system safely. And our approach really is, as the fire risk escalates, as Hallie talked about, we're looking ahead, today, tomorrow, the next week. What is our fire risk? And we want to make sure that as that risk escalates, so does our response. So last year, in Oregon, there were more than 2,000 fires that burned nearly 2 million acres. And of those fires, we had 165 of them in our service area that we were monitoring throughout the wildfire season. So that is a lot of fires. We were number one in the nation last year for fires, for acres burned. I don't want to be number one again. Like, I want to be number one in other things for Oregon. Fire acres burned is not one I want to be in. And the National Interagency Fire Center's forecast is we may have a very similar fire season to last year this year. So we want to make sure that we're taking steps to monitor the conditions that could cause a spark and making sure that we're operating our system safely through our work practices. Let me go back here. And that could mean we are placing settings on circuits to be more sensitive. So again, using those relays and reclosers to make it more sensitive, so we shut off the power more quickly, and those are known as enhanced safety settings. De-energizing circuits when the fire is too close to our equipment. So again, if fire is coming near our equipment, we want to de-energize to make sure that we are operating our system safely for responders. And those are known as emergency de-energizations, or as a last resort, a public safety power shutoff when the weather forecast and fuel conditions could create an extreme forecast. And Nora will cover public safety power shutoffs in more detail. And so let's watch a video to explain a little better how we might use de-energization to prevent wildfires.
At Pacific Power, we're committed to providing the safe, reliable service you count on every day. During conditions such as gusting winds and hot, dry weather, and in areas near trees and other types of vegetation that could ignite, we need to take certain steps to prevent wildfires and reduce their impacts. While these safety measures may interrupt your service, they can prevent catastrophic wildfire events. Let's look at 3 of the ways we help protect communities and prevent wildfires. The first is enhanced safety settings. During times when wildfire risk is elevated, we will adjust the sensitivity of some of our equipment. With these settings activated, our lines will de-energize within fractions of a second if a line is contacted by debris, wildlife, or strong winds, reducing the risk of a fire ignition. Because of this, there's an increased potential for power to be disrupted and remain off until field crews can visually inspect the lines before power can be safely restored. Next is the public safety power shutoff. Hotter, drier, and windier weather conditions can create heightened wildfire risk, and we may carry out a public safety power shutoff, or PSPS, shutting off power to specific targeted areas. A PSPS is done in partnership with local public safety partners. If a PSPS is likely to occur, we attempt to notify customers that power may be turned off and to keep affected communities informed throughout a de-energization. Once we've determined that the fire risk has passed, we will safely re-energize lines and restore service. Emergency de-energization is another wildfire prevention method that may result in a disruption of your power. When an active wildfire moves close enough to threaten burning into our lines or equipment, we will begin monitoring the fire closely to evaluate its potential spread and impact to our systems. If the fire is moving too close to our equipment, we will complete an emergency de-energization of our power lines. This process helps us prevent additional wildfires and protect first responders. Here at Pacific Power, we're dedicated to keeping our customers safe while delivering the power that our communities count on every day. During times of extreme weather events, when wildfire risk is at its highest, our wildfire prevention measures will help protect our customers and the communities we serve. To learn more, visit us at pacificpower.net/wildfire.
So as you saw in the video, we may turn off power for a variety of reasons to prevent wildfires from starting or reduce the impact of ongoing wildfires. But we do know that has an impact on all of you. So if you look at the slide there, that is a map of a 25-mile radius around Medford. So that includes Medford, Central Point, Eagle Point, Tallet, Ashford, and then parts of Grants Pass. And last year, there were 660 enhanced safety setting related outages and 6 emergency de-energization related outages when fire was coming too close to our equipment. So we know that those have an impact on all of you. And that can be really disruptive to your lives and to your businesses. But safety of our customers and our communities is always our priority. And if we have to choose between safety and reliability, we're always going to choose safety. But we also want to make sure that you all are informed about what to expect during wildfires. So if for enhanced safety settings, customers will receive an email or letter when their circuits are placed on enhanced safety settings for the season. So that's based off of if you have chosen to ask to be communicated with by us by email or by letter. So if you aren't sure, please go check with Adrian or Marco or is Mary tonight and make sure that you are set up to get information and communication from us based off your preferences. But when we set your circuits on enhanced safety settings, we will notify you. We haven't set any yet this season. We checked before the meeting just to make sure. So you haven't received any communication from us yet about enhanced safety settings. If there's an outage due to enhanced safety settings, you're going to receive a notification from us based off your preferences for getting outage information, whether that be text, phone, or email. And again, go check with customer service if you aren't sure how you want to get those outage notifications or if you're signed up for outage notifications to make sure that you're getting information on what's going on. For emergency de-energizations, if there is time, we will send you a pending de-energization notification. We'll try to send you a warning if there's time. But when the de-energization occurs, we will send you an active de-energization notification, again, by phone, email, or text. And if it's a longer duration outage because of a fire, we'll continue to send you updates based off how long that fire is lasting. We also had a lot of feedback from you all last season that it was frustrating not to know what was going on, why an outage was happening. So we've made some changes to our communications. So one, we've started sending out information on preparedness to all of you about wildfire season, again, by email or letter. We've made some changes to our outage map, and these are going live this week. So if there's an outage on a circuit with enhanced safety settings, or if there's an outage due to an emergency de-energization, it'll show that on the map. So you'll see an icon saying this is on an enhanced safety setting circuit, or it's an emergency de-energization. So, you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick. What's the longest days that people haven't had electricity? Like a day or two?
So I have the data, so at the end, I'll look it up and make sure to get back to you. So thank you for the question. So this is a preview of our outage map that'll go live this week. And hopefully if you go this week, there won't be anything on there and there'll be no outages. So if you go check, you may not see anything. So. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nora to talk about public safety power shutoffs and emergency preparedness.
Thank you, Melissa. First, I want to thank everybody for coming here. Thank you for being interested in what we're doing, and thank you for being interested in what you can do, caring about your community, and hopefully after tonight we have some good takeaways and make sure that we get all of your questions answered and we can talk through how we can help you as well. So now I'd like to move over to public safety power shutoffs. How many of you in the room are familiar with what a PSPS is? All right. Okay, some education time. Great. So as you've heard, we have different operating conditions based on the risk that we face. And when it becomes too dangerous to operate our system entirely, these are the really, really hot, dry, windy days when the vegetation, all your grasses, all your trees, all your bushes are so dry and brown that it's no longer becomes safe to operate our system. These are planned events. We know ahead of time when we're looking forward, it's forecasted. But really the considerations are, what's the weather like? What's the vegetation like? Is it a flat, dry field with a thick grasses that'll run, a fire would run through real quick? Is it a mountainous terrain with a lot of trees? Those are considerations we take into effect when we consider a public safety power shutoff. And then is it going to impact the surrounding area? So those are the three main areas we look at. We will communicate with you. And again, as Melissa mentioned, our customer service team is great. They're right there ready to help you. Please, I encourage you to check on your contact information, make sure it's updated with them after the session today. And if not, well, we have a phone number for you to call, or you can go online. But we will notify you via all of the methods. We typically will start getting an idea about 5 days out from our meteorology team that it's going to become really risky. And so we start planning a PSPS event. We start working with our public safety partners 3 days out. So this is when we have that conversation with them. If we have to turn the power off, are there any critical facilities that need to keep the power on that may not have a generator? Like a hospital, like a care facility, a fire station. And then we work to make sure that their needs are met. And then we also talk about, do we need to put up a community resource center? And that's a location that you can go to if you're impacted. You can get away from the conditions, because typically when it's a PSPS event, it's really extreme weather. You can get information, you can charge your phones, you can get on Wi-Fi, get some snacks. We have medical care there and a variety of other services. So we look at where would we put one of these that's convenient to the impacted community. And that could be really anywhere. That could be in a brick and mortar building like this. That could be in a self-contained tent in a parking lot. We've done that a few times before. So we figure out where that is, and then we'll let you know. And then 2 days out, we let you know that there's a potential to turn your power off. So you get a lot of notifications. You'll get it via every communication method that we have for you, whether it's phone call, text, email, all of those, we'll send that out. And then we'll continue to communicate with you throughout the event. Once the risk has passed, we have to go out there and make sure that the system is safe to turn back on. And often this is where we'll find a lot of damage. We'll find fallen trees or debris on the lines, and we have to fix that before we can turn the power back on. So we go through that process, keeping you informed. And then finally, we'll let you know when the power is back on. And we do this for two reasons, primarily. If you chose to leave home, or if you had the luxury to go somewhere else, then you know it's safe to return home. And then if your power is still not back on, you can call us and let us know, so that way we can troubleshoot and make sure that we can restore your power as quickly as possible. So a lot of communication with this process, and again, only under extreme conditions when we absolutely must do that. Now I want to talk a little bit about improvements that we've made to our team, and I'm really, really excited about this. We have expanded our emergency management team to better meet the need, and a lot of the lessons learned that we had from last wildfire season. So our emergency management team, Holly's in the room, is your local point of contact that works closely with the public safety partners. She's also responsible for all the planning, the training, the exercising, all the good work that gets everybody responsible prepared. She also, during response, will lead the coordination. So we have an emergency coordination center that she would help and make sure that we're getting all the resources that we needed in the right places to try to make sure that we restore services quicker. In addition to Holly, we've added fire and emergency response managers, and we have Daryl and Lloyd in the back here. These are heavily experienced former fire incident management team experience, that they are deployable. They can go when we have a large fire, they can go out to the field and work directly with the incident management team. And this gives us a lot of leverage and ability to understand what their priorities are. We can help coordinate re-energization, de-energization as they need based on the field. We can get access for our crews so they can quickly restore and repair and make sure that we can get the service back up again as quickly as possible during these very large wildfire incidents. And then very proud of, we are standing up a 24/7 watch desk. It's the Wildfire Intelligence Center, and that is located right here in Medford. It covers all of our 6 states, but it's located locally here in Medford. And we have developed some technology, and we're also harnessing outside technology like AI cameras that are available. We have, some of you may have heard of Watch Duty or some other apps online. So we're harnessing all this information so that we can have faster, real-time information so we can make accurate decisions with how we operate the system. That'll help us better fine-tune when we need to make sure that we're turning the system off, turning it back on, in order to alleviate a lot of the outages that we've been having, as well as making sure that we're keeping our first responders and our communities safe while we're operating that. So very excited about that. And it should be a local pride for us here because it's located right here in Medford. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about what you can do. So a couple of things. Some of you may or may not have. Does anybody here have an emergency plan or an emergency kit? Raise your hand. Okay, great. Sort of, that's great. A start to start. You got to start somewhere. You know what, it's probably never done anyways because you can't really anticipate for every single thing that you may need it for. So an emergency plan, it's really important. It doesn't have to even be a big emergency. Do you know all of your contacts on your cell phone? Do you have them written down somewhere? What happens if your phone, thank you. That's fantastic. It doesn't have to be a big emergency. You drop your phone, it stops working. I don't have mine memorized, and I have to keep adding them all the time. I forget. An emergency plan is basic what you need to know. What are your financial information? What are your medical information? Does your family know where to meet if you get separated? Like if you have kids at school or if you have parents in different parts of the city for work, or what if you can't get home? Do you know where to meet? Things like that you talk through, it's free. You can do it. There's plenty of templates online. The emergency kit is a slightly different story. It takes some effort to put together. We encourage you to piece it out. Don't try to do it all in one weekend. It takes some effort, but you know, what kind of food do you need? Make sure that when you have shelf-stable food for that it takes in dietary considerations or things that maybe your kids prefer to eat, not, you know, the stuff that doesn't taste very good. Make sure you have stuff, comfort items for kids. Kids get very scared during disasters, and it's really important to make them feel comfortable and ease that stress. For animals, or for if you have loved ones that have vulnerabilities or need devices or assistance to cope during times of disaster. So just encourage you, we have material outside that you can look up. You can also go to our website. There's a lot of resources available to help you get started. And then defensible space. How many of you have beautiful yards or land? Do you practice defensible space? Thank you. Great. Great, awesome, thank you. It's been shown through wildfires, defensible space can save your home during a wildfire. It's the practice of how you create land around where you ensure that everything close to the house is low, separated out, less combustible material. It could be something that is free. It takes labor to do. You can also invest in things like hardened shingles in your home. You can also cover up your vents. There's a variety of different practices that you can do, but I highly encourage you to get started on that because it has been proven that it can save homes. And then finally, I want to talk about what we have available for you. I highly encourage if you yourself or you have somebody in your life, a family member, a friend, a loved one, if they have any vulnerabilities or needs for extra assistance, we have a medical certificate program. We encourage you to have them sign up for it because that will qualify them for a variety of services that we offer. We can offer bill payment and financial assistance. We have additional communications during a public safety of power shutoff event for individuals that need that assistance. And also you can qualify for up to $4,000 in a generator rebate program. So That way, if you have a medical device that you rely on, and if the power does shut off, whether or not it's PSPS related, that you can ensure that that device can keep going and they're safer. So highly encourage you. We have material available for that as well. And make sure you share that with anybody you know that may qualify or may be interested in that. And then my last plea, please visit Adrian and our customer service team at the end here. Verify your contact information. You probably signed up for electrical service many years ago. Is your phone number still the same? Do you have maybe a new email? I encourage you to, when you have a moment, verify that. You can do that here, you can do that on the phone or online, and just updating your preferences. And I really want to thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about what we're doing. Thank you for caring about your community. And I'll hand it back to Hallie.
Thank you, Nora. So if you would like to peruse at your leisure the Oregon Wildfire Mitigation Plan that we have filed for Pacific Power, you can see that at pacificcorp.com/safety, or you can scan the QR code that you see up there. It is quite a lengthy document, which is why we try to come out and explain it in person a little bit more, other than just reading it, but by all means, feel free to take a look. And with that, we're going to transition to our question and answer period.